Hey neighbors, the handyman here with Initiative Coffee Company, the Bill Allan here with Bill Allan World. It is time to rise and roll. Roll those dice.
Well, Brian, we have had a busy time recently.
Yeah.
So our intermittent schedule for Rise and Roll is largely based on the fact that we've been crazy busy, you know. So we had GaryCon, and then we had some time off with school things, and but most recently we have returned from a triumphant trip to Central Illinois, to Lexington, Illinois, not to be confused with Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
Because there was a Lexicon in Kentucky, and it might still be happening, but their website's kind of. I think so. But we went to Lexicon IL, which is in Illinois.
Lexicon L.
Yeah. So it was. Now we have two perspectives. So I went there to shoot video and play a game and run a game. You went there to with the coffee in tow. So let's share kind of some of the cool things that we found.
Sure.
Well, for starters, I would call this a very small one-day con. Right.
Yeah.
This was This was.
I would say this is more of a game day than a con.
Game day.
To be honest.
Good way to explain it. All right. So Brian, take it away. Your perspective from the vendor.
Yeah.
side
So
of things.
it was actually larger than I expected it to be. I expected maybe 60 people. There were about 130.
When you say larger, you mean space-wise larger?
I mean in terms of in terms of numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, I expected maybe like 60 people, but there were like 120, 130.
Yeah, and it was it was in the town's community center.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Which is great, nice, solid
It's
building,
a cool space.
big space. They had like a kitchen on one side. They had the main space, and then some side rooms, things going on in the hallway. So yeah, talk about that.
Considering the whole population of Lexington is 5,000 people, having 126 people show up is I'd say that's a win,
Yeah, and they drew from neighboring areas. So those who aren't from Illinois, this is kind of located near a few cities in central Illinois that are also college towns. So you've got Bradley University in Peoria. You've got a few of the community colleges down in that area, and then Bloomington,
Wesleyan, and then
ISU, Illinois State University. Yeah. So there was, and I would say that it was kind of a good mix, right?
Yeah. There were even like maybe 10 or 12 people that also made the commute down from Chicago. I talked to some people from all the way up in Elgin. There were some folks from like in the city proper. So the people that showed up was a pretty wide spread of people who are just like coming in to see what was going on. The mayor came in because he had no idea that the event was going on and chatted with us. It's kind of a cool town.
And how was the coffee consumption, would you say?
I'd say it was okay. Those events are always a little bit tricky. We haven't, that was the first time we really tested the hop program. We did it at LionCon, but, we were busy with other things at LionCon, too. So that was the first time that we, were there just for coffee and did a hop program. We definitely covered our costs. We didn't lose money on the weekend.
Yeah.
We didn't make a ton, but we did... get to meet a lot of cool people in Lexington.
There were, I think from a vendor perspective, it's funny because I would say that Lexicon was smaller than LionCon.
Yeah.
In terms of physical space, but also attendees. But there were quite a diverse range of vendors.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about some of the people we saw. So we had artists. There were artists there.
There was an artist from Brookfield, actually, down there.
Yeah, quite a few artists, like 3 or 4 different artists.
Yeah.
Writers and illustrators.
Right.
Both physical books and comic.
Yeah.
There was a comic book artist, web comic series artist. And then they had quite a few, and this is kind of the part that I'd like to explore more, is there are quite a few startups that were doing gaming stuff, tabletop gaming stuff, and that were actually playtesting some of their newest games.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a cool. I thought that was kind of a cool feature to have. So the big people behind Lexicon, the real organizers, are the guys over at Limitless Adventures.
Sure.
And so we met Michael and Andy, and they were they had a table with a whole bunch of their product out there. So I had no background with what they do.
Right.
let's
Apparently
talk
they're
about
pretty successful.
Like we go on the website and I'm like, holy crap, these guys are prolific.
Yeah.
They have a lot of stuff. So let's talk about like what they're doing.
They have something like 80 supplements. A lot of it's like straight fantasy based monsters and adventures and stuff.
Yeah, and if you're in the chat live with us, it's limitless-adventures.com. Yeah. That's their hub. Yeah. And you can see there, they have PDFs, like dozens and dozens of PDFs. And a lot of their original content was basically supplementary stuff designed and using like open gaming license to be compatible with 5th edition D&D. Yep. And it just started blowing up. They would make these little things that were very kind of niche-oriented, specific, but then it would kind of grow and grow. And then they started putting these compendiums together. Right. So they have run multiple successful Kickstarters.
Yeah,
so they do have physical books.
Process.
Yeah. So my friend Steve Pierce, who's from Lexington, who kind of hooked me in with these guys for this thing, he's old school like me, and he's like, yeah, PDFs are fine. He's like, but I want a book. He's like, I want a physical book. So what's cool is that they do have physical books of a lot of these things, but the price points are very reasonable.
Like $10.
Yeah. Some of them $10. Some of them, I mean, the smaller ones are $2.99. Like that's nothing.
It's for the PDF, but yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked the fact that their whole philosophy was interesting to me. That the way that Andy was saying, say for example that you have something one of the actual canon, Wizards of the Coast published books. Yeah. Tyranny.
Sure.
Okay. So if you get, Tyranny of Dragons, Rise of Tiamat, and you go through all that published material, there's a whole campaign worth of everything, right? Yeah. But what he said was, there are these little chunks that are kind of the in-betweens that
is a common criticism of a lot of the like pre-made adventures that Wizards puts out, is like it's a really good skeleton for an adventure. Yeah. But there's not enough content to get you where you need to be by the end.
Right. And I have mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, I agree with that, and I see there's a demand for those in-betweens. Yeah. And this is what Limitless that's their groove. They found this niche, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you the in-betweens, whether it's, Rise of Tiamat or if you're in the jungles of Chult, what else can you do other than what's in the adventures to get from point A to point Z? And they put those little in-betweens together, and that's kind of what they offer. On the flip, when you're building worlds, you kind of also want to leave some things open so that when other DMs use your content, they have some flexibility. They can create their own canon. They can create their own in-between. Yeah. So it's kind of a juggling act, right? What I like is that they also, it's not just tables. It's not just, you're in a jungle. Roll a d20. Now you get this. Okay, follow up with what this guy has for treasure. Roll percentile. It's less about that and more about the holistic atmosphere. It's the encounter. It's like, and then NPCs. Like, they're generating, for these different locations and climates and all this stuff. They have like a wealth of additional things. Yep. And sometimes, you're running a D&D game and you have, an encounter, and as the DM, you don't have any plan for the waiter in the inn, but the players are like, what's his name? And you're like, his name is Frank John. Yeah. Like, and you you're not going to run, Frank John's not he's a one-dimensional NPC, right? He's only meant to bring ale and bread. Yeah. Okay. So they flesh Frank John out. They give you, not just stat blocks, but like a background story, so that if you can choose some
what he cares
people.
about.
What he cares about. Like, if the
yeah.
party is a bunch of murder hobos, is he gonna like report them to the constables, or does he secretly have a zest for adventure? And you know, so it's really cool.
And then and that's all very interesting. But I think the thing that Limitless is doing that's really cool to me is taking that core 5th edition system and expanding it into new settings.
Yeah. Right? So beyond fantasy. Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Like, just like looking off your browser right now, there's 80s horror, there's World War II in North Africa, they have superhero games, they have Cthulhu games, like
more monster, Limitless exclusives, locks
and doors. Like,
But that's exactly, Brian. That's like kind of one of those things where, I was talking to Andy, and I think it just grew from there, and that's where they launched like kind of their branch company, which is called Fifth Evolution.
Sure.
And the idea is we're going to take the open gaming license, so people who are comfortable with Fifth Edition don't have to learn a whole new rule set. They don't have to buy new stuff. They can kind of focus on using what they're comfortable with, but now expand, like you said, into all these other cool settings. Carbide City is one of them that they have that's from their Fifth Evolution launch, and it's kind of a superheroes thing.
Yeah.
Then World War II, North Africa. That is so custom. You know, like, it's not World War II everything.
It's the African front of World War II.
And he's like, are we going to put out more stuff? Yes. You know, it's like, what I like about their philosophy is that they have built a community, and they take that feedback from the community. And when the community's like, hey, dude, we'd love to do World War II Pacific Theater. Can you put, then they'll go and do the research.
Right.
And by the way, their team is a bunch of, obviously, gaming geeks, but also history buffs.
Right.
And, military strategy nerds. And so they've got all these different writers and collaborators who are giving them input as well to kind of really flesh out these things. So, and that one, by the way, you could get there from their main website, limitless-adventures.com, but they also launched a completely different branch company website, and it's Fifth Evolution. So the number 5, evolution.com. And that's where they kind of have all these other branch things. They do have a Kickstarter running right now. So if you're watching today's live, they have a few days left on a Kickstarter that was super funded. Sure. They had a $500 goal, and I think they were at $3,800 already. Yeah. So that's yet another example.
That's the benefit of these smaller splat mods is it doesn't cost a lot to produce them.
Right. They're grinding and they have this prolific library of really cool stuff. So check them out. Let us know what you think. Drop us a comment or send us an email to Initiative Coffee Co. and let us know, if you've used any of their stuff. Let us know what you think. How did that work out when you built it in?
If you're watching us on YouTube, not right now.
Yes.
Just put it in the comments below. We'll link all this stuff into YouTube.
Yeah, we'll have a whole roster
of
links.
Extra streamlined today. So,
and then Brian, one of the other guys that we met was Force Perspective Entertainment, and so this is a group of people who, based out of Champaign. So if you're familiar with Illinois, Champaign-Urbana's big college town. It's University of Illinois flagship. Main campus. Big population, long history of comics and gaming. Yeah. But this guy from Force Perspective Entertainment is launching his own convention. And it's going to be Tabletop Central. So it's tabletopcentral.com. And this is Central Illinois Board Gaming Convention. So they're going to have a game library, play to win, raffles, board games, miniatures, RPGs. And you can register. It is September 21st.
It's another one day game.
A one-day game day. Now, Brian, what's the problem with September 21st?
September 21st, the problem is that there are 2 other events that I know of that are drawing my attention on September
in the Midwest.
21st. In Illinois.
Yeah.
One in Brookfield and one in Joliet.
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit.
There's, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the way calendars line up or what it is, but it seems like the entire industry is run off 8 weekends a year. Because it seems like there's a lot of overlap between all of the different events.
I think part of it's weather, right? So we know that it's a crapshoot. When we run LionCon, it's February. It's winter in Chicago. And we've had weather that matched that, you're rolling the dice, man. And actually, Lexicon originally wanted to do their con in February, and they pushed it to the end of March specifically because of concerns about weather.
Well, it's like LodgeCon in Peatone has been the first week in March for 2 years, and they finally pushed it to the end of April. Yeah, because the first year that we went, it was 13 inches of snow. Vendors couldn't show up. The turnout was bad.
And Lexicon this is the second year, but their first year they got a landslide of snow. Yeah, it was. So
I'm sympathetic to the notion of winters in the Midwest, but like even in spring and summer and fall, like it seems like, and I'm sure it's coincidence. It's not like there's some secret conspiracy of people solely there to vex me and overschedule me,
so that you cannot attend all of the cons.
And I'm sure it has something to do with like proximity to Gen Con and like wanting to be far enough away from that people aren't like, well, we went to a con last week, why are we going to go this week?
Right. But I think what's funny is Tabletop Central, because they're having it in Champaign, which is a big college town, and they know that that's going to be their big draw. But they've partnered with the Orpheum Children's Science Museum down in Champaign, which is really cool because that opens it up more to family stuff too as well. And that's a great, thinking about sponsorships and partnerships. If you want to have, a community and build a community, find that venue and find those sponsors that are going to fit well with the event you're trying to run. And we've learned that with LionCon. We've been very fortunate through, the support of our friendly local game store, Fair Game, and our comic book friends at Chimeras, and
a free venue.
Yes, I mean all of it. So now, one of the things that I found interesting, just to jump back about Lexicon, was that the games that they were running. So we talked about vendors, we talked about Limitless Adventures and what they have, but for a small one-day game day thing, they were running a ton of games.
15 tables stacked from 10 to 10.
Yeah, and it was so it was Adventures League. They had Pathfinder.
There was a little bit of Adventures League. That was kind of like the smallest part of it, but Pathfinder Society was there. I don't know if Starfinder Society was there. Shadowrun they were running.
They had a crazy Cthulhu game, and they had a Catan tournament.
Yeah.
Which son
was a
played
qualifier for the national finals at Origin.
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, this is, again, it's not just about RPGs. When we talk about tabletop gaming, I mean, Catan's a cool game, but it's not new. It hasn't been
it's a breakthrough game, but it's not like on my top 5 list of games I enjoy playing. Right? Like,
but seeing people playing it, effectively in a competitive setting because everybody wanted to qualify, that was really cool. Like, my son had never played it, and we walked out of there being like, Daddy, can we go buy that? And I'm like, yes, son, we'll go to our friendly local game store and buy it. So that's without a doubt, like, I was just blown away. And then other games, included people were playing Magic the Gathering, people were playing their own D&D games, other than kind of the official.
Yeah, I was impressed by that Catan tournament because it was a very small con in the middle of Illinois that was qualifying for a national tournament.
I just think it was cool. And like Shadowrun, like people running Shadowrun, like and what was the other one? Dungeon Crawl Classics. Oh, there was a table run in DCC, which was cool. So yeah, for a small and I think so. Here's where I'm going with all this. This is a group of people who said we want to have a game day. We want to bring together people. They had a bunch of different, kind of starting up artists and illustrators, writers, game designers and stuff who are ready to bring their stuff. They reached out to Steve Jackson Games and just said, hey, we're in Central Illinois. We're trying to start up this convention. Would you be interested in like sending us a game that we could play and demo and maybe give away as a raffle? Steve Jackson Games sent them 20 products to play and give away.
And like,
it was,
here's the thing.
How awesome.
Here's the thing is most game publishers, I think, when they see like community event, they get excited about it. You know what I mean? Like, the same thing happened when we reached out to Cards Against Humanity for GalaxyCon last year, and we're like, hey, we're doing this like game day thing. Do you guys want to come out and check it out? And they sent us the whole library. You know what I mean? Like
hundreds of dollars of product.
Probably $2,500.
Yeah. So I mean that. But, so here's where I'm going with this, Brian. For those of you who are watching, whether you're watching live with us right now or later on YouTube, if you've ever been in the position where you're like, I'd love to go to a convention, but they're too expensive or they're too far away from me, consider the possibility of starting up a game day. Maybe it doesn't have to be a 4-day convention. Like, this is a 1-day thing. Tabletop Central in Champaign in September is going to be a 1-day thing.
And there's lots of networks to hook into. If you're looking for like
And it's not
a
easy.
way to publicize.
I don't want to. I mean,
like we've done it for 2 years.
We
It's not
busted
easy.
our
Yeah.
ass doing LionCon, but
It's a lot of work.
But it's so cool when it comes together. And I think that when you have that idea and you get a few people together and you believe in this idea and you start partnering with, different companies or venues or even your local community partners, at Lexicon, they had the local school boosters doing concessions. What a great way to raise money. Like, I personally spent like $40 feeding me and my kids.
On soda and nachos.
On soda and, sandwiches. And by the way, in this particular region of Central Illinois, they have a sub sandwich that is, it's called the Gondola because there's a restaurant called Avanti's that makes this specific branded trademark sandwich. But it kind of uses like a sweet sub bread that is just melts in your mouth. Yeah. It's so good. So
What's in a
I had
gondola?
2 of them.
What's in the gondola?
So it's like ham, salami. It's like 3 meats and, lettuce, tomato, that kind of stuff. But again, it's nothing fancy, but the bread is what ties it all together. Yeah. So, but I think it's worth people thinking about, discussing. But if you're one of those people who's like, I'd love to be able to do a con or a game day.
You can.
You can.
Yeah.
It is
takes
possible.
work, but it's possible.
And you'd be surprised at how much people will want to come out and check that out. And, even if you just start off with, I've got a bunch of board games that people can play for free, and I've got tables, and, we get a local restaurant to come be the food sponsor, and, one by one, the pieces start to fall into place. And, if any of you watching are interested in this kind of stuff, again, on Rise and Roll, we try to share with you upcoming conventions and gaming events and stuff like that. But anytime you have questions, if you really wanted to start doing that, reach out to us.
Please do.
Yeah, leave us a comment because Brian's way more familiar with convention stuff than I am. But definitely, we've collaborated and not just with LionCon, but with other conventions and working them. And
I guess the other thing to think about is if you're looking for you're like, oh, I'd like to go to a small con, but like they're too far away. I think you'd probably be surprised. I think there's probably one closer to you that you don't really.
And
it's not well publicized. Maybe it's not on a lot of radars.
And that's another thing too. Let's say you're a little intimidated by the challenge of launching your own game day or your own con. See if there's one locally that's happening, and reach out to the organizers of that con and say, hey, I just discovered that you guys, I'm in your area. I really want to kind of get involved. What can I do? Can I be a volunteer? And a lot of cons will be like, dude, if you come and help us do this, we'll give you a free badge and we'll feed you. That's the least we can do. So think about that. And postscript. Say you're designing your own games or your own tabletop gaming accessories, or you somehow have a business related to that. What a great way to get you that extra exposure for your business is by being a part of that. So again, just building community is a big part of why we're doing this show and why we do the programming that we do and why Initiative does all that stuff.
That's why we do game.
It's so that, at the end of the day, here, and I'm just going to tie up Lexicon like this. You knew you were going. I didn't know I was going until literally the night before. But I looked at the schedule for the next day. My kids had no activities. My wife was working. And I thought, the next day could go one of 2 ways. I could either sit home and relax while the kids watch TV and YouTube videos and play video games. Or I could drive 2 hours down to a con and go have fun all day and disconnect from screens and get together at a table with people. And it was awesome. Yeah. It was worth the drive down. It was worth the drive back. I got to meet a whole bunch of new cool people.
We had a blast.
We played, I ran a game for a bunch of kids and family and friends, and it was fun. So, that's the other reason why community is important, because tabletop gaming gives us that unique opportunity to get together with people, preferably face-to-face, and to game and break out of, your day-to-day stuff and use your creativity and use your strategy and have fun. I mean, I was cracking up at this game that I was running because of the range of kids. So my youngest son was there. He's 9. My friend Steve's kids were there, and they're, tweens and teens. And, Steve's friend was there with his son. And it was like a great mix at the table. And they had a blast. I had a blast running it. And, the whole thing was fun. So, If you're looking for conventions coming up, Brian, what's coming up in the next couple months? So I know we have.
You got me over a barrel here.
Well, in June. I mean, let's skip April and May.
Yeah, June is Origins.
But June is Origins, and that's a big one.
It's the second largest game convention of the year.
We may or may not be going to that.
I will be going. We
you
have
will
a hotel booked, but we won't be vending. We'll be probably trying to run games,
running content. Okay, and that's in Ohio. So if you guys are
Columbus,
Ohio. So that's a big one that might be worth looking into. If you can't do Gen Con in August, then maybe
I would say I enjoyed Origins more because it feels a bit more like Gary Con than Gen Con, if that makes sense. Like there is a vendor hall, it's a substantial vendor hall, but there is a substantial play area. Yeah. And it's more focused on sitting down and playing games.
And that's awesome. I mean that. And we have other stuff coming up down the pipeline. We've had to take respective breaks on programming, both on the D&D with high school students side on Bard's Tale, but we have more stuff that we'll be producing coming up this month in April. So stay tuned for that kind of stuff. But again, if you guys have questions about anything related to conventions, getting involved in conventions, or just building your own gaming community, that's what we're here for. Reach out, comment, and Brian or I will be happy to kind of relate our information, our insights and experience to you to help you. Because even if you can't do a con or a game day, if you want to play these games, there's always a way. Whether it's your local game store, comic book store, or just gathering with people. Brian has Meetup. So meetup.com.
Well, I don't anymore.
Well, but that that's a way to do it, or just Facebook groups. And then if you can't find anybody in your local area, there are so many ways now to connect with people all over the world, just like you, who want to play games. You can use Google Hangouts, Skype, Discord. So there's so many different ways that you could kind of start gaming. So that's the gist of it. This is a short show. We don't have any Kickstarters.
We don't have any Kickstarter. Oh, we do have one Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
Yeah. There is a Kickstarter called Critical Core.
Critical Core.
Which is exciting to me because the premise of Critical Core is to use tabletop gaming to help socialization of people on the spectrum.
So if you go to Kickstarter, the school's blocking my ability to go there. Right. So if you just go to Kickstarter.com and search Critical Core, CORE, it's the first one to pop up. Sure. And it's brought to you by Game to Grow, which is a 501c3 organization that runs tabletop RPG therapy gaming groups every week. Yeah. So
this isn't going to teach you how to be therapeutic. You probably should get a license and pretty substantial training for that. But it does teach you skills to kind of help in a very social and community oriented way folks on the spectrum.
And I want to say that even though their mission statement focuses on that, and by the way, their main website is gametogrow.org. I feel like, Brian, I have seen tremendous growth from people with other challenges. Mm-hmm. So I have had, and I'm not going to name drop, but I've had people in gaming groups with anxiety and depression issues, and there's something about the role-playing experience that allows people to
get outside of that.
Get outside of them. And I can say definitively, I'm sure you can too, that my decades of experience in role-playing games have allowed me to relate and to try to understand and to try to be more empathetic. And to just, you use other parts of your faculties, emotional and mental faculties, to kind of connect with other people. And it's an important thing for all of us to be able to do. I think any gamer will say this typically. You always have this feeling at the end of a game session, right? And sometimes it's a mixed feeling. Maybe the game did not go well. Maybe it didn't go in your favor. Yeah. But maybe it did. But you always have this feeling you had a chance to disconnect and use this other part. And
That's important.
And this is a great way to be able to connect to people, frankly, of all ages, no matter whether you're on the spectrum or maybe you have a friend who just has a lot of, social difficulties, or again, there's a lot of therapeutic benefits. So check that out. And then Brian, anything else? The Xander thing.
Oh, right.
So months ago,
in December, I had the opportunity to work with Wizards of the Coast on a project called Midwest Moms Play D&D.
Yes.
With Xander Jeanneret of Geek and Sundry.
Yeah.
And that went live this weekend on their YouTube channel, so you can see Xander play D&D with his mom, aunt, and 2 of their friends from the bar.
It's like you always imagined. Like, what would happen if I played D&D with my parents?
It's frankly, it's adorable. Like it's a cute video. It's about 13 minutes, so it won't take up too much of your time, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's not the full game session. It's kind of more like highlights / behind the scenes documentary stuff. But it was cool that you guys got to go up there and work with that, and that's amazing. So check that out. And as always, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you don't like something that we're doing, or if you do, let us know, and we will see you on Rise and Roll. Now, next week we won't, because I am going with the students to the NAB show,
Vegas.
The National Association of Broadcasters Conference. So we won't be here next Monday, but the Monday after that we'll be back on schedule. So
we do have one other thing to talk about today, and that is our brand new merch site.
Oh yeah,
at initiativecoffeecompany.threadless.com. You can get T-shirts, coffee mugs, water bottles. There's a throw blanket. Right now we only have our brand logo, but if you want to support Initiative Coffee Company, the profits from this are really what's going to bankroll programming. So largely Bard's Tale is on hiatus until we can get enough funding to really do what needs to be done for that program. And so merchandise is one of the many ways that you can get us to that fiscal goal. Merchandise you can find our Patreon as well, but this way you get some neat stuff out of it.
That's right. So go out and get yourself a blanket, a tapestry, a mug, some stickers, a water bottle.
There's 5 or 6 different T-shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all, folks. Thank you for joining
Monster
us.
Monday today?
Oh my God, I forgot about Monster Monday.
I forgot about Monster Monday.
How could I forget? Brian, we're gonna stay away from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, because every time I choose it, someone's gonna die. So instead,
also, like, it's specifically like demons and devils, and like they're all high levels. So like, of course, it's a challenging.
Anybody want to throw us a page number, or are we doing the random flip?
Random flip. It looks like.
All right, here we go.
We already did giants.
We did giants.
Ogres.
Orcs
and ogres.
Orog.
Orogs.
Okay. Ugh. Take your pick. You got 4.
Those are like info on them.
I don't even know what an orog is. Is that like the crackhead orc? Is it the one that's like the god?
Those the like half orcs?
Orog.
Those might be like the Orc Eye of what's its name? Yeah, they're stronger and smarter servants of darkness. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, why don't you pick first, and then...
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a page. Not plagiarize, but I'm going to recognize the influence of one of the greatest writers of D&D fantasy fiction, none other than R.A. Salvatore.
Okay.
And I am going to use a trilogy, but specifically one book, The Orc King. And I'm going to talk about Orc War Chief, okay? So in this scenario, we're going to flip the switch, and we're going to say that there is an established group of orc tribes in this region that your game is set in. And these 7 tribes intermittently war with each other, but every once in a blue moon, there emerges a leader amongst the 7 tribes who unites all of them and turns them into a horde, which then just rampages and devastates throughout the land, right? But no orc horde has ever taken on the walled capital city before, because they don't have the siege engines, they don't have the training, they don't have the tactics to do it. Except this Orc War Chief. Now, here's the flip. This Orc War Chief is actually not a full-blooded orc. He is 1/4 human. His parents were an orc and a half-orc. And he has managed to deceive his tribe all of his life into thinking, because his mother died at an early age, into thinking that he's full-blooded orc. His mind is keen. His tactics are strong because he has been able to learn from captured prisoners. And in so doing, through years of victorious battles and leading his people, he's earned the respect of not only his tribe, which has now become undisputably the most powerful of the 7 tribes, but now he's started to learn from his enemies, and he's started to gather forces. And instead of conducting one big horde, he's kind of tactically ordered all the other tribes to start amassing resources. So each tribe is kind of attacking different regions. They're branching out from their home regions and attacking and raiding, and they're bringing these resources together. And this has taken 10 years. This is a huge ongoing process, right? But finally, they have amassed all of the means to conduct war and actually bring a horde together to take over the capital city. They have siege machines. And they have, by the way, they've captured and kidnapped multiple people who have the means to direct the labor force that they have. They have the muscle, they just didn't have the brains. And now they've got all these captured prisoners who are like engineers who are building siege machines, and carpenters and weaponsmiths. And the weaponsmiths, like, basically their choice is either you will teach us how to build our own armor and weapons, or we will eat your family in front of you, because they captured the blacksmith's family too, right? He's a genius. He's an evil genius. Mm-hmm. And he's lawful evil. That's the other thing. He is not a chaotic, evil, barbaric fool. He's lawful evil, and he's using his intellect and this decade expansion, this conspiracy, to bring together a true, tactical, well-trained army that's well outfitted, that's prepared, and that they are going to take over the capital city. Unless you and your group of adventurers can figure out a way to stop them. That's it.
Yeah. I might do the rest of them.
Okay.
So I have Orc Eye of Gruumsh, and Orog. So these orcs in general are really good for tier 1 kind of plays.
Hold on. Switch to this camera. Switch to Brian's camera. All right, go.
Orcs in general are pretty good for tier 1 play. That's really like what they're aimed at. So I'm thinking like levels 1 to 5. Like, this is going to be a major story arc. Like level 5, maybe 6, like, is when you're going to fight like the big Orc War Chief. But to get there, you have to get through the kind of like little guys, the orcs on the way up. Maybe you have to deal with a couple of Eye of Gruumsh shaman on your way to getting to the War Chief. So it's going to be kind of a protracted thing. You start an adventure in a town. The town is kind of cut off from the rest of the nearest like cities. Mm-hmm. They don't have a lot of resources coming in. Maybe there's a blockade going on by these orcs.
Maybe they're worn down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first couple of adventures are going to be like defend the town from a small raiding party, go and break down a blockade, those kind of like low-level adventure ideas that like occur to most people. And it's going to build toward this Orc War Chief fight. He's probably got 2 Eye of Gruumsh with him when you storm his stronghold. There's probably a dozen or so orcs there, so you're going to have to deal with like tactics. You're going to have to deal with stealth. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to deal with maybe some social encounters. Maybe you trick them somehow on the way to the Orc War Chief. And then when you defeat the Orc War Chief, you find out that he's been communicating with someone else through these Orogs. These Orogs are working for a more powerful enemy that's been secretly funneling resources to this orc tribe to develop risks and threats that draw attention away from this more powerful enemy's plans and methodologies and motives. So what is that more powerful enemy? I don't know. That's for you to decide.
A dinosaur.
It's an intelligent dinosaur that teleports and spits bees. I don't know. So that's how I'm using orcs. I'm using them as low level, like
cool,
like an arc.
Yeah. And that's, here's a great example. Orcs. Like if you just ask, like, what's the most common monster that you encounter in D&D? Orcs. But and it could be so much more interesting than just, all right, they attack you. All right, you kill them. They have this treasure. It's about the narrative. So hopefully this Monster Monday has been beneficial to you. Yeah. You found it enjoyable. Thank you for tuning in once again to Rise and Roll. And like we said, if you have comments, questions, drop them in the comments or reach out to Brian via Initiative Coffee and order your Initiative Coffee swag today or T-shirts, coffee, either coffee. One. Yeah.
Coffee's available on our website. We'll have our second benefit roast online April 21st.
Right on.
To support Jasper's game day.
That's right. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time on Rise and Roll.
Roll together.